The desert stretched endlessly, an unforgiving ocean of sand under a sun that felt like it was burning straight through his skull. The air shimmered with heat, creating mirages that taunted him, tricking his eyes into seeing water where there was none. He had one bottle of fuel, the tiniest fragment of hope, the lifeline to a vehicle that now lay silent, half buried in sand like a carcass abandoned by time. Every movement was exhausting. Each step sank slightly into the dunes, dragging his boots down, forcing him to fight the shifting ground beneath him. The wind howled around him, carrying fine grains of sand that stung his eyes, scraped his skin, and filled his mouth with grit, reminding him that he was utterly exposed and alone. Thoughts collided inside his mind with unbearable intensity. Could he make it to the distant ridge, the faint outline of which promised salvation, before night fell and temperatures plummeted? Could he survive if he misjudged the time, the distance, or the strength of his own body? The bottle of fuel sat heavy in his backpack, both precious and perilous, a symbol of survival, but also of fragile hope. One careless movement, one spill, one miscalculated step, and the difference between life and death would vanish. He scanned the dunes carefully, noting patterns in the sand, clusters of jagged rocks, and subtle depressions that might hide deeper danger. Each grain seemed magnified in the bright sunlight, and the desert whispered a silent warning. Every choice matters, and mistakes here are permanent. Sweat poured from his body, soaking through his clothes, making the weight of the backpack even more punishing as he rationed every movement, every breath, calculating with razor-sharp focus how to preserve energy, conserve water, and protect his single precious resource. Mirages shimmered like cruel tricks in the distance, sparkling pools of water that evaporated when approached, testing both his resolve and his mind. He knew dehydration could kill faster than hunger or exhaustion, and every gulp of air felt like fire in his lungs. The vehicle behind him was both a promise and a threat, its engine dead, its potential to rescue him entirely dependent on the tiny bottle of fuel in his hand. He considered the options, using it immediately to restart the vehicle, or conserving it for a chance to reach a safer location. Should he risk igniting a signal fire to attract potential rescuers, knowing that even a small flame could waste fuel he might desperately need? Each thought was a tightrope walk, the consequences absolute. As he moved cautiously toward the ridge, sand slipping beneath his feet like liquid, the howling wind carried distant, eerie sounds, the rustle of desert predators, or perhaps just the shifting of sand and rock. He could not tell, and that uncertainty gnawed at him. He pressed onward, every step measured, calculating, surviving on instinct, honed by fear. The first critical decision came as he stopped to inspect the vehicle. The sand around the tires was deep, and the engine had long since cooled, dormant under layers of grit and time. With trembling hands, he uncapped the bottle of fuel, the liquid inside catching the sunlight, a fragile thread connecting him to hope. He poured carefully, calculating, imagining the engine roaring to life, imagining escape, imagining disaster. Sparks of possibility lit his mind. The vehicle, once silent, could now be a lifeline, or it could betray him. He turned the key. The engine coughed, sputtered, and then roared to life, shaking the vehicle with a force that was both terrifying and exhilarating. Relief surged, but there was no time to celebrate. The desert does not pause for victory laps. Maneuvering over sand dunes proved punishing. Wheels spun, tires dug in, and he had to dig, push, and coax every inch forward, balancing the remaining fuel with painstaking precision. Shadows lengthened as afternoon approached, warning that night would bring a new enemy. Freezing temperatures, darkness, and the psychological terror of isolation. Each mile was a struggle, every turn critical. He rationed every drop of fuel, measuring distances, conserving momentum, and carefully planning how to use the terrain to his advantage. He scanned the horizon constantly, reading the dunes like a map, watching for signs of rescue, any hint of life, any visual clue that would guide him out of this deadly expanse. Fatigue pressed relentlessly, yet focus sharpened, a paradox of endurance that only the desert could demand. Then came the sounds. Distant howls, the subtle shift of sand, the occasional scrape of unseen animals, and he realized that predators, both human and natural, might roam this wilderness, a constant, invisible threat. Night fell abruptly, turning the desert into a freezing, shadowed expanse. He wrapped himself in whatever scraps of clothing and material he could find, eyes scanning the star-studded sky, trying to estimate distance and direction. Sleep was impossible. One lapse of awareness could mean death. Survival required every ounce of mental strength, every fragment of courage, every decision executed flawlessly. As dawn approached, the desert revealed the vastness of what he had traversed. Miles of sand behind and a faint glimmer ahead. Perhaps civilization, perhaps further danger. Exhaustion clawed at him, but determination drove each step, each turn of the wheel, each calculated movement toward potential salvation. The experience was a crucible, stripping away comfort and certainty, leaving only raw instinct, focus, and the will to survive. By the time he reached the first signs of life, a road, a fence, a building in the distance, he felt disbelief, euphoria, and profound respect for the relentless forces that had tested him. The journey through the desert had shown him the fragility of human life, the illusion of control, and the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. Every moment had been a lesson, every breath, a victory, every mile, a testament to endurance, ingenuity, and the ability to act decisively under extreme duress. He realized that survival in extreme conditions is not about strength alone, but about awareness, preparation, and the courage to make critical decisions when time and resources are finite. The single bottle of fuel, once a simple object, had become a symbol of hope, danger, and human ingenuity, reminding him that sometimes the most ordinary items, when paired with strategy and will, can mean the difference between life and death. And as he looked back at the endless desert he had conquered, the waves of heat rising off the sand, the silent horizon that could so easily have been his grave, he understood a profound truth. Life is fragile, nature is indifferent, and survival is the result of focus, courage, and the relentless human spirit refusing to yield, even when every second weighs like an eternity, and every step is a battle against the elements themselves. The desert had tested him beyond anything imaginable, and yet, through decision, determination, and the careful use of his single lifeline, he had emerged alive, forever changed, carrying the lessons of endurance, precision, and the unshakable will to survive against overwhelming odds.